Hello. This video will provide an overview of the disposition section of the new 3.5 OC EPCR run form. As a preface, it may be helpful to have the technical summary PDF open when viewing this video, as much of what we will be showing is described in the technical summary. We will also be toggling between the old run form and the new run form throughout the video to show what has been modified. The patient name, shown in the lower left-hand corner, is being used here to denote the new from the old. To begin, this is the section with the biggest change in the 3.5 standard. The video here is only an overview. Crew training will likely need to spend significant time learning the details behind these modifications. We will link the new to the old throughout the video to help provide context and continuity, but in the interest of a more natural and chronological flow, we have reorganized the panels and the locations of many data elements in this section. In the old form, this section was titled Transport. This has been changed to Disposition to more accurately communicate the various elements organized here. In the old form, the first question was our core element, patient/incident disposition. While disposition has always been the whole set of elements used to describe and categorize the incident, the patient incident disposition element is commonly referred to as the disposition. Many aspects of our system, including validation rules and reporting, hinge on that disposition element. In the 3.5 standard, this core element has been replaced at the state and national level by 5+1 new elements. However, at the local level, we are maintaining the mandatory use of our disposition, patient incident disposition. So, to make the extra documentation of these new elements as easy as possible, we have added this first panel, Disposition Buttons. This panel is a list of preset value buttons representing our existing disposition values. Where we can, we have linked these values with the corresponding values in the new required disposition elements. So, if you click on a value button here, you will be able to automatically document several of the new required disposition elements. Some of our dispositions are less definite in terms of how they fit with the new dispositions. For instance, the ALS eval/BLS here will only pre-populate 3 elements, whereas the 911 transfer to BLS will pre-populate 5. And we will set this disposition now to a transport disposition for further examination. Please review all of the disposition values here in depth and work to understand why they are linked to the new elements and values in the way that they are. At the bottom of this panel is a link to the definitions for our disposition values. And a note that if the autofill options do not apply to a particular field dynamic, field users may simply document each component element separately. Although there are validation rules that prevent some contradictory values from being used inappropriately, if you would like us to consider additional validation rules to guide appropriate documentation of the new disposition elements, please let us know. In the next panel, we will get into a bit more detail. But opening the next panel, let's just go from top to bottom. Here, you will have another opportunity to document scene delay. This location may be more natural to document since you won't know if there is a scene delay until after you have initiated and performed a good amount of the assess and treat aspects of the incident and may find it difficult to go back to the run info panel. We have also worked in the times elements into the panel view so that you don't have to toggle back and forth to the times power tool unless you want to. And now to get back to the dispositions. We have our standard disposition element here that has been auto-filled from the disposition button that we selected. And then we have the first 4 new values: unit disposition, patient evaluation and care, crew disposition, and transport disposition. We can see how unit disposition and patient evaluation and care have been auto-filled, However, for this particular disposition, 911 ALS no contact, there is not a definitive crew disposition or transport disposition, and those will need to be selected per the incident. Moving down, we have spliced in fields like received from agency to help crews understand the flow and intent of the new disposition elements. And the final of the 5 new disposition elements is reason for refusal or release. This is a required element and will be validated when applicable. The +1 is level of care provided per protocol, and that element is available in the overall impression panel to be discussed later. Here, moving to the bottom, we have the 2 base hospital contact fields. These are available in multiple locations to help with flow from panel to panel, and specifically if you have an AMA-based contact, you can document everything you need here and not need to go into another panel. Clicking Next, we are taken to the next panel, Transport. If we toggle back for a moment to the 3.4 run form, we can see that what was once the disposition panel has been split into 2 separate panels, Disposition Detail and Transport. This allowed us to be more descriptive in the labeling. It also let us add a number of elements, whether for flow or because of new 3.5 requirements, while still maintaining reasonable size so that minimal scrolling is necessary. At the top of the Transport panel, we have the base hospital contact fields again. And the unit left scene time, also again. To reiterate, we worked in this version to provide crews the ability to document necessary components without having to jump around in the form. So various critical elements are now in multiple locations. Crews should be trained on this functionality so that they are aware that they can postpone documentation of various components until when they are applicable later in their particular incident dynamic. Receiving facility pre-arrival alert grid is new and is required when applicable. So if you are making contact with the receiving facility, it needs to be documented here. In some cases, this may be within the same base hospital communication as documented above. However, the times would be different as the destination determination does not occur at the same time that base contact occurs. Base contact time should be documented when that contact is initiated. Pre-arrival alert time should be documented either when you directly make contact with the receiving facility or when, in the base hospital contact discussion, a destination determination is made. And if the receiving facility is not the base hospital, the time when the base hospital affirms that they will alert the receiving facility. Next, you can document reason for choosing destination. You can also document this element later in the destination panel. EMS transport method is unchanged from the old data standard. And transport mode has been changed similar to response mode. You will now use this field to document emergent versus non-emergent. All 911 responses that result in EMS transport will be emergent transports. Non-911 emergent responses may be downgraded to non-emergent transports as applicable, most often at the direction of the transferring or receiving physician. Our standard transport mode options of Code 2 and Code 3 are documented in the new element Transport Mode Descriptors. The remaining elements are unchanged from the old standard. However, their placement has been modified for better flow and documentation. The next panel is Overall Impression. This is more or less a direct carryover from the old form. However, there are several new elements. Here we have the +1 from our disposition buttons. The element is level of care provided per protocol, and it has been auto-filled here from the disposition button we selected earlier. Next is final patient acuity. This is an old element, but has been moved from the old disposition panel to this new location for better flow. And finally, the outcome data element is an old custom element, but hopefully is now more applicable for everyone with the bidirectional data exchange project. If your crew wants to receive an automated message in Elite whenever outcome data is sent from the ERC, just click Yes. Moving to the next panel, we have Destination. At the top, a second location for pre-arrival alert has been provided, as are redundant locations for reason for choosing destination and type of transport delay. Next, we have the destination name, which will continue to autofill the type of destination. If your transport is going to an inpatient or other location, you will need to manually correct the type of destination. Hospital capability - specialty is a new element that replaces specialty center triage, but has a slightly different usage. For the new element, it is required whenever your destination is a hospital, not just when it is a specialty center. So the first value here is hospital general. This is also a multi-select element, where any specialty pertinent for the patient's condition should be documented. Finally, note that the trauma values are separated by ACS level. So UCI and CHOC are grouped together, and OC Global, Mission, and Long Beach Memorial are in a group. To reiterate, the time elements have been added for inline documentation. And a new grid here for destination report identifiers. This is where you will document the medical record number for the ERC that will serve to link your report with the hospital's medical record number for bidirectional data exchange of data and receipt of outcome data. There is a barcode scanner directly above the grid that may be used for some facilities. And there will most likely be an instructional hyperlink or additional panel added to our default run form to help crews know what information is needed from which hospitals as we work through the fall of 2023 to complete the bidirectional data exchange project. Finally, there is a redundant location for receiving physician or accepting MD in the first iteration of the destination address fields. We recognize this is a big panel that requires scrolling. So if you are at this point and want to document the address, you may. Or you may click into the next panel that is specific for destination address. Here, you have access to these fields without having to scroll to the bottom of the previous panel. There are no changes to these elements in the new standard. Next, the 911 IFT report has been expanded to include similar IFT ALS transports. The new panel is labeled 911/emergent IFT report. This report should be completed for all 911 and emergent transports out of emergency departments. The elements themselves have not been modified in any way. The odometer panel has been modified to include several additional elements, and these are self-explanatory. The valuables panel has not changed. The destination radio frequencies panel has been modified. We have added the red phone. And finally, we have added a base hospital contact radio frequency reference for our 911 and IFT ALS providers. And this concludes the overview of the disposition section and its multiple component panels. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.